engaged, and empowered to take a stand against corruption. In our space, we will expose the various forms of corruption, discuss its impact, and explore ways to combat it. We will hear from experts, activists, and most importantly, from you, the youth. Your voices are powerful, and your actions can drive meaningful change, as we have seen in the past 1 month. So let nobody tell you that we cannot drive change. We have driven a lot of change, as you have seen. Together, we will shine a light on the dark corners of corruption and work towards building a society where integrity and fairness prevail. Thank you, and I would like to invite my co-hosts, Jelani and Marge, to say something before we proceed. Jelani.
Hey guys, karibuni sana. I am so excited to be able to host this space with Nelson. We've been having discussions about all the information we are receiving in our DMs. People who want to tell us what is going wrong with our country, but who are afraid of persecution, who are afraid of being at the forefront, who are afraid of treating who are afraid for their lives, and we decided that we are going to be holding a space every so often, maybe every week. It's just dependent on how you guys feel. But we'll be holding a space every week where we're going to whistleblow on every single scandal because there's so many things that are wrong in Kenya. So many things. Like kila siku manze, you wake up and something is wrong. Someone has stolen something, someone is trying to sell something, someone is trying to disenfranchise Kenyans, and this has to stop. And one of the biggest detractors of thievery, corruption, and looting is information being open in the public domain. People having the information is one of the biggest detractors of bad policy, corruption, and looting. So Nelson and I and Maj as well will try to hold a space every week to expose all the scandals. Every piece of information that we get is going to be out in the open, because when we say we want to drain the swamp, that's what we actually mean. We need to drain the swamp. We need to make sure that everybody that holds a position of power in Kenya is above reproach, that people that are in power have integrity, the people who are in power understand that we are holding a microscope, we are holding a magnifying glass to every move that they make. So this is just a call to ask that if you have any information about any sector, please send it to Nelson Amenya, or you can send it to myself, or you can send it to Marge. We are also going to list a few other people that are in diaspora who might be great people that you could text and say, this is what's going on, and you can provide receipts. And every week we're going to come on this space and we're going to tell you what's the download. So thank you so much for joining. I'll let Maj do her introductory remarks. I'm really excited. Thank you so much, Nelson, for having us here. Maj, you can have the mic.
Thanks, Jelani. Thanks, Nelson, for the invite. I really do not have much to say on the introduction part because we have been doing, spaces, and I think a lot is known out there. So thanks for this opportunity. It's good. It's great co-hosting with you guys. Over to you as we begin, Nelson.
Okay, thank you so much, Marge and Jelani. So basically, what the topic of today is immobility and the scandal that we are trying to unravel. I don't know if you guys have read the article that was written on Business Daily about this scandal that is brewing in the Ministry of Treasury, but not really the Ministry of Treasury, but it was first in the Ministry of Trade when the former CS Moses KURIA was there. And I will leave the details to Jelani, but just to touch on this scandal. So in the e-mobility space, it's a very new space in Kenya, as you all know. It's not a very developed industry because the EVs, the electric vehicles, it's a basically a new concept that the world is trying to sell because of climate change. And the president has been on the forefront of this climate change discussion, and this is why they were trying to push for the ICEs, the internal combustion engine vehicles, so like the boda bodas or the vehicles to be phased out, and then we bring in the EVs. So they're trying to make this push because Kenya has put itself in a space where it's some sort of leader in this revolution, the green revolution, so of going green. And that's why Moses Kuria came in with a plan to bring in 200,000 motorbikes, EVs, so electric motorbikes into Kenya. But then he didn't want to use the existing companies. So there is so many companies in Kenya. There is EcoBoda, there is Kiri EV, there is even an association, the EV Association of Kenya, which would have been the best vehicle if they wanted to bring in 200,000 motorcycles. But he went ahead and brought a different company that has been doing it in the rest of Africa called Spyro. So Spyro has raised about 20 million dollars of seed funding to expand into Africa. So they used this company called Spyro to try and bring in 200,000 motorcycles into Kenya. So this is the backstory. And Spyro is not new in the business. It was called M Auto in Dubai and in India. It's an Indian company, but they sold the M Auto company to an African Indian who is a billionaire in West Africa, and they changed the name to Spyro. But if you look at the certificate of incorporation, the CR12 that was registered in Kenya last year in July, M Auto still owns 100% of this special purpose vehicle, the company that they registered in Kenya. So you wonder then how does it make sense that M Auto sold the company to Spyro, and still M Auto owns this company in Kenya, but M Auto is a company in Dubai and it's a holding company. So there is a whole it's shredded in, it's shadowy company in UAE. Um, that doesn't really make sense. So anyway, Jelani will speak more about it, and I can also add more info as she unravels this scandal that has hit the EV industry in Kenya. Jelani, you have the mic.
Let me tell you, the more I read about this situation, the more nasikia blood pressure ikinipanda. It it's so mind-boggling how greedy these people are, and how they're going to destroy literally every sector that is, just everything they touch turns to dust. So I had a conversation with a whistleblower who told me the following. I'm just going to report everything I have received so far, and then after this space, I'm going to put up a long post that will attach screenshots and receipts and stuff, so that you can have just some sort of context to what we are discussing in case you want to refer to it afterwards. So last year, Moses Kuria, Honorable Moses Kuria, invited EV companies to a meeting in Mombasa. What he failed to inform them is that this was a public participation meeting. He just said it's a random meeting, it's a random get together. And so some companies obviously did not attend, and the ones that did were blindsided by what they found to be happening at this meeting. It was a public participation meeting. When they get to this meeting, Moses Kuria is basically talking about the fact that they need to have the EV companies need to find a way to supply 200,000 e-bikes by December 2023. Please note this is July 2023. So in less than 6 months, these companies need to figure out how to distribute and supply 200,000 e-bikes. One of the companies that was being told to supply these bikes were like, we certainly cannot supply 200,000 bikes. That's a lot of bikes. We only have the capacity to do about 20,000 bikes. Now, in this meeting that was going on, was this, as Moses KURIA is trying to tell them what the government is trying to do with e-mobility and getting border people to switch to EV motorbikes. Well, I guess it wouldn't be EV; it'll be electric motorbikes. It wouldn't be EV, but electric motorbikes. There was an Indian at the back of this meeting who was not saying anything. The guy was just there silent. People noticed him, but he did not say anything, like at the meeting. Later on, it emerges that this Indian is actually the CEO of this company we've been speaking about on Twitter. He's the CEO of Spiro, and he owns a company that had been incorporated in Kenya in July 2023. So as Moses is busy having this meeting that is a sham public participation meeting where he's telling these guys that they need to find a way to deliver 200,000 bikes, this company is being incorporated under a random name in Kenya, and Moses is basically saying these are the people who are going to be mandated to supply 200,000 bikes, because the companies currently operating in Kenya are saying they simply do not have the capacity to deliver that many bikes within the 6 month period. So then what happens is we have around December 2023, there's a launch, and this company, Spiro, says they have 2,000 bikes that they've brought in from Rwanda. Now, this is irregular on two fronts. A first front is that we have a law in Kenya. I think it may have been outlined in, I suspect it is a tax procedures 29 of 2015. I'm not sure exactly. I'll have to confirm. I'm not sure where this is outlined. But you're not supposed to import a fully assembled bike. And that's what Spiro was intending to do. They were intending to import a fully assembled, like bike mzima. And what the law in Kenya says is the bike is supposed to come in parts, and some of the parts are supposed to be assembled in Kenya, like are supposed to be like sourced in Kenya. About 10 to 15 parts are supposed to be sourced in Kenya. So already on that front, the fact that this company was trying to had imported 2,000 fully assembled bikes, already that in itself was an irregularity, and that shouldn't have been allowed. So that was the first illegality of this deal. The second illegality of this deal is that the government was offering this company a tax incentive to the tune of 2.6 billion Kenya shillings up front for them to be able to guarantee that they would deliver the 200,000 units to Kenya. Now Moses was creating a situation where it seemed like there was an emergency for there to have for the country to have this e-mobility motorcycles. Like there's this insert, like there was such a surge, there was such a need for these bikes. So they needed to create this, like it was like they had to give these people this emergency 2.6 billion tax incentive so they could then guarantee the 200K bikes. Now, here's the third illegality, because this thing gets more illegal as we go, right? They did not only get a tax, it was not just a tax incentive, all right? It was that Moses KURIA, and obviously the more at the top, WSR included, asked that 2.6 billion be withdrawn from our treasury to pay what was supposed to be the tax incentive for e-mobility. All right, I'll get back to that point. I want you to write it down somewhere if you can. But I'll get back to that point because that is just the most diabolical part of this whole situation. Now, these bikes, the first 2,000 bikes, they came into the country with no user testing. Nobody had done any tests on these bikes. Nobody knew how they worked. So, I mean, obviously they came into the country and they had a lot of flaws, and nobody wanted them because they kept breaking down. The terrain is different. I understand that these bikes came from Rwanda. Rwanda is completely different even in terms of climate. So the bikes just had a lot of problems. And what this company decided to do is to start handing off the bikes to chiefs to use them as, as they're figuring out a second plan. So now that's where the second plan comes in. So the second plan comes in and they decide now what they're going to do with these bikes is they're going to hand them over to boda people. So boda people will give them their regular bike. Then they're going to get this Spiro bike. Then when they get the Spiro bike, now they have a loan to pay back, and this loan is going to be paid back to Spiro over a period of 2 years. Initially, the plan was to go through Hustler Fund, where the Boda guys would take a loan from Hustler Fund to pay Spiro, and then would be left paying the Hustler Fund. But they quoted that would be a bit complicated, so they decided that they would just hand the guy, the Boda guy, the Spiro bike. He would give them his regular bike, and then he'd have a deni with them and pay it over 2 years. I think this is the point where now they decide to pull out the 2.6 from Treasury and just plug this tax hole, which now brings us to where I came and told you this was an illegality because Kenya lost a lot of money because we lost the money that Spiro would have paid in taxation for this deal. So that would have been revenue. That was the revenue that Kenya was going to collect. But now we also lost, over and above the revenue we did not collect, we also lost the 2.6 billion that they stole from our treasury to pay and plug the taxation hole that Spiro was not paying. So we lost money on two fronts. We lost the revenue that we would have potentially collected, and we also lost the 2.6 that they pinched from our treasury to plug this hole so it did not look like Spiro was not paying tax. Now, the net effect of this situation is that Spiro is currently able to sell these e-mobility bikes that are complete shit, they don't even work properly, at 30% less than what our local manufacturing companies, Kina Ikoboda, Kiri, are doing. And what is the most insane part of this scandal is that every time Ruto goes in the public domain to talk about the propagation of EV technology in Kenya and the growth of e-mobility in Kenya, he's always talking about the local companies, Kiri, Ikoboda, and a bunch of others. But when it came to this tax incentive or tax, what I don't even want to call it an incentive because this is money that was stolen from our treasury to plug the taxation hole from this company. It was given to a foreign company, Spiro. Spiro is incorporated is incorporated as part of a holding company that is registered in the UAE. So our government is basically saying we cannot give tax incentives that are industry wide as stipulated by the East Africans custom law, but we can give an incentive. Actually, it's not even an incentive. We can steal money from treasury so we can pretend that we are giving an incentive to an international company. And my question is it crack? Is it crack? Because the custom law is very clear. When Rwanda was trying to get incentive for the mobility industry in their country, they went to the East Africa Customs office. They have the law and they applied to it, and they were given the exemptions. And so now Rwanda has a tax exemption that is industry wide, which means anybody in importing or manufacturing anything that is just like in the e-mobility space, they are entitled to a tax incentive. Kenya did not do that. Kenya did not go to the EA Customs Law Office to ask for this incentive. We just cut corners, went to Treasury, we stole money, and we gave this company. So it looked like they were paying tax, but really they were not paying tax. They were using Kenya's taxpayers' money to cosplay being taxpayers, being a foreign company paying taxpayers paying tax in Kenya. So that for me is just like absolutely mind blowing. It's just, I'm just like, I'm looking at this information and I'm like, I think we are being led by mad people. We are being led by mad people. And you know the worst part about this, when I was listening to this information being given to me, I said, you know, I wish they had said that this money was coming from Hustler Fund, because then I could have in my mind, as a business major, I could have justified them pulling out this money from Treasury, because I would have said, you know, in the long term, if 1 million border people are paying interest on their loans that they took from Hustler Fund, then it could justify, you know, pulling out the 2.6 as some sort of operationalizing fund for this deal. But no, we're going to take the money from Treasury. We're not even going to use Hustler Fund. We're going to let Spiro finance on their own with whatever interest rates they decide to push on our border people. We don't fucking care. We already took the 2.6 billion from Treasury, probably split it amongst ourselves, and now we have a random foreign company in Kenya selling their their e-mobility bikes at 30% cheaper. So we are even undercutting our local companies. We don't fucking care. We made our money. These people are actually insane. They're actually insane. And then it doesn't stop there. It does not stop there. We come now from Spiro, we go to another company called Afri Green Automobile, or Afri Green Automobile. They registered recently in Kenya, and based on the information I have, this company is owned by people who are working in State House. Okay, so why did they register Afri Green Automobile? They registered it because apparently there are plans by the Kenyan government to set up e-mobility or EV vehicles, electronic vehicles manufacturing plant in Kenya. And the Kenyan government has signed a deal with a company called Cherry Motors. It's a Chinese company. And the plan by this idiot is to transition Kenyan government from the usual SUVs to EV SUVs. And frankly, I don't mind that. But I think there's a bigger conversation, which is like, why do we even have that such many, like as many cars as we have in the convoys? I think as opposed to trying to switch to EV SUVs, the conversation should be how many cars should be in a motorcade. Because if you have 150 cars in a motorcade, even if they are EV, you're not saving the taxpayer any money, right? So the conversation that now these idiots are having in fucking State House is that they want us to switch from regular SUVs, the guzzlers, to EV SUVs. And that's why the people at State House registered this Afri Green automobile that is now in a partnership with this company, Cherry Motors. Now, this was announced 3 days ago, and I think Cherry Motors now has a roughly $20 million investment where they're supposed to have some plans to set up this plant. But for me, I'm like, where does it end? Where does it end? We are it's like we are creating problems so that we can pretend that we are solving the problems so we can loot money, right? I do not think that Kenya has such an immediate need for transition into EV or e-mobility, an e-mobility ecosystem. I don't think that it is such an emergency that we have to start pulling 2.6 billion of taxpayers' money to pretend that we are giving tax incentives to foreign entities whilst disenfranchising local companies that are trying to manufacture these things and pushing them into a corner where within a couple of months, obviously, if you cannot compete with somebody that is selling 30% less than you are, you're going to close shop. So we are looking at, we've stolen money from treasury, 2.6 billion. We've also seeded any income that we might make from this foreign entity. We've told them, ata msilipe tax, ata we don't need money. So roughly we are looking at like 5 billion, maybe 6 billion loss at the top. We're not looking at even the years of operation. If they're in operation for maybe 10, 15 years, we're not looking, or even in perpetuity, we're not looking at what that net loss is. We're not looking at what the local companies are going to suffer if these deals are allowed to go on. I am so outraged. I cannot breathe. What is going on in this country? Nothing is working. I need to breathe. Marge, Nelson, please take the mic for a little bit. I need
Yeah,
to
yeah.
breathe.
Yeah, so even me, I'm super enraged by this. Moses Kuria came on Twitter the other day with a scorecard and trying to boast how he's the only CS who was working, blah blah blah, and he's busy killing the EV industry in Kenya. I've been seeing so many EV players in Kenya saying, "Oh, we want to move to Rwanda." Can you imagine? And they're not even thinking about the local EV players in Kenya who have actually built from scratch, and that some are very young people who are trying to build their life around EV, but they just come and boom, give 2.6 billion Kenya shillings, taxpayers' money, not his money, not Ruto's money, but me and you and everyone else's money from the taxpayers' money. This is so wrong. And I was speaking to some EV players, and they were saying that this is something even bigger because so the government is looking at the EV industry in terms of carbon credits. So if you guys have heard this story of carbon credits, so how it works is that for every let's say you exchange border borders and give them border borders, you can actually go and claim carbon credits. You just need to quantify the carbon credits equivalent to the CO2 that you have avoided. So they're called avoidance credits. So you can basically start selling avoidance credits in the carbon credit market. And because they're government, they can sell the carbon credits in the compulsory market. So like the EU, where they're compulsory, you have to buy the carbon credits, and you can also sell it in this other market. I'm forgetting the name of the carbon market. So basically, what they're trying to do is to monopolize the EV industry in Kenya by selling 200,000 bikes. It means they can make millions of dollars in terms of carbon credits. Can you imagine how greedy these people are? It's insane. They want to eat from everywhere. They want to get money. So how much is enough? In Europe, for those who have traveled and have been able to talk to people in Europe or in other areas in the first world countries, the politicians are the same. You will find they are still corrupt. They still take money from public coffers. But the only difference is they make sure that the government is working for the people. If the government is supposed to build a road, they will build a road, and the road will be good quality. If the government is supposed to build any amenity like the sewer system or anything they should be doing, they will do it. But they will also take the money. I mean, you need to find a balance. But in Africa, they want to take 99% of all this money and leave us with nothing. Last time I was in Nairobi in May, it was unbelievable. I could not believe Nairobi Kenyatta Avenue was looking like some village because there was mud everywhere. It was raining, and I could not believe it. I was like, there is mud in Kenyatta Avenue. I mean, what the hell? Kenyatta Avenue is like in the city center. It should be all tiled up, you know. So it's so crazy that African leaders do not think about this. They only think about storing all this money in some in the Cayman Islands, or right now it's UAE is so famous for this because it's a tax haven. You can hide your money and you can put as many you can do the Dutch sandwich so that nobody finds out it's your company and stuff like this. So um, Marge, you have anything to say, or we can give it to other people to contribute?
And thanks, Nelson. I don't have anything to say. I will just help by queuing and actually organizing. So, just continue to queue the next. I think we can begin with Mkenya. Mkenya, over to you. Kenya Daima, can you
Kenya
hear
Daima,
me?
can you hear me? I can hear you, but I think my mic will have a little bit of feedback. Is Jelani's mic open or closed?
It's closed.
All the mics are closed. Yes. Just try.
Okay, fine. Just wanted to make sure there is no feedback from my end. So okay, fine. This is one interesting story. Because the reason why it's an interesting story, it's my brother was in charge of conducting an EV research on the bikes, specifically in the bikes, from last year, from the month of July to up to December and everything. So when he reached out to Spyro, this is where things get crazy. So he reached out to most of the EV manufacturers in the country, and the research was, a collaborative research. Conducted by World Bank, and my brother was the one who was in charge of the whole, the ground guy on that report. So what he did, like, he selected all the EV, and basically they were to provide three e-bikes. So they were to purchase 3 e-bikes from each of the providers. And I'm sure even reached out to some companies, some guys who are active, especially on the EV side. I even reached out to Alex Monzo when my brother was working on that research, because he's also in the EV space. But basically, they were dealing with the vehicles. But on his end, he was dealing with purely only on the bikes. So when he reached out to Spyro, what they did is Spyro did not provide their bikes to undergo that rigorous testing, because it was a rigorous testing that was, the bike was to be used for like 21 days, and the research was to compare it with a base research on the normal bikes, the normal petrol engine bikes, so to see how they are good for the market. So guess who did not provide their bikes for the research? It was Spyro. What was the excuse? Oh guys, we are only in Mombasa and we are in Rwanda, so we can't provide our bikes. And it was the only company that did not provide their EV bikes for that research. So now when Jelani was talking about this, I was like, so many things were brewing. Okay, because I assisted my brother in some of the things, especially on the data analysis part as well. We worked on some of the data that was being collected, because the data was being collected daily and all. And when he was selecting the manufacturers in the country, he did not have to, there was no preference. It was all the manufacturers who are having EV bikes in the country. So now it makes me to wonder, a company that did not want to be part of the study, the open study for the public, to determine whether these bikes are good, the bikes that they offer, they are good for, for the public use in the country. And now they are the ones that are in bed with the government. So it means there is a lot of alama ya dukuduku and mshangao that is happening. So that's why I'm saying, like, yes, I mean, I'm learning about this rot now. And it's crazy, because 1 + 1 was not making sense, because this research is the research that was presented, I think 2 weeks ago, that was conducted by my brother. It was presented like 2 weeks ago at IEA, at the IEA headquarters. So it is something that has a very, it has a very deep impact on, it has a very deep impact. Kumbe these Washenzis are not providing their bikes because they are in bed with the government, and they're just here to scam, steal from the Kenyans in the name of the EVs. So the reason why I was presenting this is, it was basically to add more information to what Leah said on the basis of this, because it means that they are this is really a con company, and I'm sure they are going to emerge many more details as this conversation continues. Thank you for the giving me the mic. So yeah, Spyro is a big red flag.
And the crazy thing, like what Nelson and Cali are saying, Kenya are saying, is that there are countries that continue to run laws that prevent lifting of the corporate veil, which means that you're not able to tell who owns what. And so you could find, I don't think that there is, I mean, if it walks like a duck, it you know it it's a duck, right? You don't need to be a genius to understand that the only reason Moses Kuria and William Ruto would go to the extent of stealing 2.6 billion in taxpayer funds to give this company Spiro some sort of tax incentive is because they are direct beneficiaries of the company. The UAE does allow, like Nelson mentioned, the UAE does allow for there to be like one owner of the company, that this person is listed as a shareholder, was the beneficiary of the shares or the income or the profits of the company is a completely different person that does not have to be disclosed. So for me, it's when I look at the situation and I look at it as a net value of what Kenyans are losing, which is more than 5 billion Kenya shillings just off the top, not considering that this will compound over time. I am 1,000% convinced that this money is going directly into Moses Kuria's pocket and directly into William Ruto's pocket. And once you even start to maybe remind yourself of Moses Kuria's past as a banker in the UAE, you start to see, of course, there's a connection between him and this very shadowy company that's based out of the UAE. Like, of course, this is who would be brokering this deal. And for me now, what I want to understand or hear from people who might be more knowledgeable on the subject is, how do we stop this people? How do we stop this from happening? How do we bring a change? What can we do in this moment to stop this specific scandal? How do we stop Spiro? How do we stop the deals that they're trying to do on our soil? What can we do? I want to see the mic maybe to Sheila, you can go ahead. Let's see if you could say something. Go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello, Kenyans, fellow criminals. I think I'll just never get past that point. My name is Sheila Nyangara Nyanchara, and I'm very passionate about an improved Kenya. And I like that we brought this e-mobility scandal to light. We should really, before I make my submission, I think I love the way we are very intentional about civic and political education. And this is the only way as Kenyans we can be able to take back, not even take back, continue powerfully exercising our role as the sovereignty. We have to maintain being the jury, we have to maintain being the judge, we have to maintain being the executioner, because that's the only way we can exercise our powers for the Kenya we want. Now, when we go to this e-mobility, I'm not very much in the e-world, but it's very clear there's no transparency in this deal. What I would want first to highlight, I think I saw the part where they are working with insurance and finances, and I think last year when they came to TV first to announce this e-mobility, they said they want those tax havens, and they want those tax havens to roll down even to the financiers, the whole value chain, to get those tax benefits. And from then on, it has not even been followed up in Parliament. I don't think I've seen that conversation until late. I mean, until early on when I saw this on Nelson's page, and I wanted to see, and I think there's even a poster which shows that there is the boda insurance there, the Ministry of there's a boda insurance that was being worked out. I think before Corona, thereabout, this issue for boda insurance came up, and when they were talking about these electric bikes, they wanted to include them, to include even payment of this insurance and this bike, so that they can spread. It was kind of like a marketing initiative. So once you know about this insurance, you're also told about this product, which they've made to look it's environmentally friendly, and it's more affordable. So the only way they can do this is through working with insurance companies and credits. Now, when we start, if we say that we want to break down how far these spiral guys have gone, if you check, they are working with Watu Credit. Watu Credit is in providing loan affordable solutions like loans. There's the Watu funds, and there's also the Watu Boda. I don't know what else they have, but Spiro, early this year in January, they announced a partnership where they are working with Watu Credit, which does asset financing, and they're and Spiro. They announced that, and then the president was there during the launch of this. Now you ask yourself, if we want accountability for what the government is doing with Spiro. Maki, I'm very shocked that they were exchanging. That is actually playing with someone's intellectual capacity. So you take my bike, as collateral, and at the end of the day, you cannot guarantee me, because after 2 years, where are they putting these bikes? Where is my bike going to? Instead, why do they have to exchange them? And they're not telling us if that bike is going to end up being part of financing, or after that bike it has already depreciated in value. What is my insurance like? Because that was also one of their bases for spreading this of the valuability of these bikes. We are not refusing that economically, if we adopt this kind of solutions, we are going ahead. But what is the interest? There's a lot of political conflict. I think we need to ask ourselves, what is the public benefit? Yeah, to the ordinary mwananchi, to the existing companies, like Jelani is saying, and what we need to assess clearly the environmental impact, because if they are not going through these checks, and if they are not compliable, how then do we ensure that really, even if it's a carbon credit benefit, how trustworthy are they? And how do they come in our broader goals? Because they must have some economic benefit at the end of the day. And how, another thing that I've always had, because my concern was that how deep are Spiro, even if we manage to control them from breaking into the national market, how do we stop the already existing partnerships that they are having that are facilitating them to get to the common consumer? How do we do that? That is that's another major concern for me. And then these corruption allegations, how do we get to know how far deep are these? Because for the president to be, and we have to note, I like that you have said we don't have the economic conditions as Rwanda has. These Spiro are also in I think Togo. I read Togo and Benin and Uganda. How is their progress? What scandals do they have? Like the way we saw the JKA issue with the Adani, they have issues. They already have existing. They are fighting litigation battles. So how do we? That's another way I think we can also try to have some strength in our in how we are. I've forgotten the word for it. It's not even anger. I'm just confused as to why the individuals in government to choose, and we think we need to know. They need to be mentioned. We need to know who exactly was in charge of what. So thank you very, very much. I'll be following up with this myself, because the Kenya County Manager, for what to credit, we need to follow up with his doings. It's very important to follow trail of what the individuals of these things do, because the activities that they partake in, when we are not following them, or when the camera is not on them, or when they are not in the limelight, those are the small meetings that help us to fill in the boxes. So thank you very much. And as Kenyans, let's continue with the spirit. We need to find out exactly how they're operating in Mombasa. What are the benefits of the people of Mombasa? What is the feedback of the bike operators in Mombasa? Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Sheila, for your contribution. Let's have Mujamba going next. Mujamba, are
Good
you
evening,
there?
Jalani. Good evening, Jalani.
Hi.
Allow me to use Kiswahili. Everybody is speaking in English. Nimefurahi sana kukuwa hapa na sina mengi ya kusema, ila tu kuendelea na kutegea na kusikiza. Asante sana Jalani. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mujamba. Maj, go ahead. I see your hand is up.
Yeah, thanks, Maj. Sorry, sis, I'm tired. I'm now calling you Maj Jelani. I want to just read a comment before I cue in Mao, and then the comment would also go to Mao if he could address that as he, comes on board. That is a comment from a user. The comment says, "E-mobility is not a viable project in Kenya. The power production not enough for domestic consumption. Point number 2, the lines cannot carry the amount of current needed for EWEAV. Then most transformers are not able to cope up with high demand. It is a further disaster in waiting." So that is a comment there. So Mao, would you want to chime in on that? You want to add that on as you continue? Jelani, do you have something to say before Mao continues?
No. Let Mao go ahead.
Okay, Mao, over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much for the space and thanks for the mic. Thanks very much, Kenyans, for coming together to address this very significant issue. I think I'll go directly to what Maj has asked and what the commentator asked, so that before I go to my points, there are a bit many, you'll bear with me. About the power not being enough, we already produce more than we can consume right now as it is. So the issue is not production of power, the issue is distribution. And if we are going to distribute this power properly, we have to look at something called microgrids. Microgrids means you're producing power and distributing it within micro ecosystems. You're not taking them to one area and then you're not taking the power to one area and then trying to distribute it to the rest of the country. We can have another space where the engineers from KPLC can come and we can debate this matter again. But for now, just know that we have more than enough power, and we can produce much, much more. In fact, if you look at what Africa produces and what South Africa produces, Africa consumes just what a fraction of South Africa consumes. And if you take the whole of Africa, what Africa consumes in terms of power, it is not even what Germany itself consumes. So we are way, way behind. Let's not worry about power, it is there. Okay, now on to my points. To be very fast, the e-mobility issue is not exactly an issue, an overarching issue. We are looking at the electric bodabodas and we are looking at electric mobility without looking at the bigger picture of mobility in totality. So we are looking at who is taking the tenders for the electric bodabodas. We haven't even discussed who's taking the tenders for the electric buses, who's taking the tenders for the new SGR that has come, or for the planes, or for JKIA, or even for something as basic as Cabro. We're not talking about those tenders. So in totality, transport in Kenya is in shambles, and it is that way by design. So we haven't interrogated properly our transport ministry, and these issues come and interlock with each other until they form one major issue. The issue that we are hiring politicians to solve our policy issues. Okay,
That is point one. Point two is, even if you look at border borders and if you look at buses and PSVs, because right now we are being told matatus are about to strike because there's a senior politician who has matatus and they're not obeying the laws. If we look at that, you realize that we have already given policy proposals of how to solve all this. We have said that, for instance, for border borders, the day there was an issue about border borders harassing a female motorists, we highlighted this policy, which had been on the shelf for very long. We highlighted the policy that was saying that border borders can do that because they are anonymous. Like, for instance, if that guy hides his number plate, there's no way you can tell who is who. Like, you can't tell one border rider apart from another. Like, they look the same from Kisii to Coast to Muranga to wherever. Once they wear that stuff on top of them, you can't tell who is who. And that anonymity is what breeds crime. That used to exist also in matatus until matatus were forced to go to TLB and register themselves and have their routes written on the side, and the makangas and the drivers to wear uniforms. Now, if we don't do that for border borders, they'll remain anonymous and they'll remain a very big criminal sector, potentially criminal sector. That is why you find politicians can easily hire them to cause mayhem because they cannot be identified. So when this incident happened, we told the policy makers that here is our proposed policy. NYS, and I'll keep saying NYS is one of the biggest silver bullets that we have. NYS hires thousands of youth, first of all, to build electric border borders, because the biggest component here is just the battery. That's the biggest component of any e-mobility. Fine, let us import the battery. Everything else we can assemble here. The engine, the wheels, the chassis, the everything for the buses and for the border borders, we can assemble here. Kira Motors in Uganda is already assembling buses in Uganda, and all they're importing is the battery. So first of all, the youth assemble the vehicle, and then second of all, they operate the vehicle. First, they get trained. NYS makes sure everyone who gets on a border or anyone who rides a bus, who drives a bus or who is a conductor on a bus is thoroughly trained to do that job. And you're thoroughly disciplined and you're given a number and you're formally employed. It's not just that someone buys a border and gets his cousin and tells him go and ride it. No. You are known who you are, you're properly trained in how to observe road rules, how to maintain your bike, how to offer first aid, all that is there. Then the third thing is, once that is done, the youth also build their own sheds. Like, they build their own sheds, they have solar on top of there, the solar charges the bike and all that. Then there's no political branding on the shed or on the bike or on the border rider. There's no political branding at all. It becomes totally apolitical. Once you do that, you have liberated the youth in the border sector from politicians. And the same now applies to buses.
One
Buses, you
sec,
go and,
Maude. One
yes.
sec, Maude. I think here, like, the conversation that we are trying to have right now is how we can run away from the scandal that is plaguing us right now, which is that somebody stole money from treasury to to bail out a foreign entity that has shadowy ownership, and that cost the taxpayer money, and how we can get out of that. I think a lot of people that understand the e-mobility ecosystem do understand how this is beneficial long term. But because so many things are broken in Kenya, so many fucking things, like, even if you're trying to rely upon KPLC to keep this e-mobility vehicles and e-mobility vehicles and technology on the road, just if you were to look at the KPLC side or the power side, that is already corrupt as it is. So I feel like the conversation should be more like, this is the scandal we have now. How can we, as civically responsible citizens, stop what is going on. That's what I want us to focus on, not where the industry could go, not how people could benefit. I think we all know the benefits of running away from fear and depending on our own, because we generate our own electricity, da da da. I think everybody understands that. So I feel like you need to bring you. I think you need. I think you need to bring your points home to where we are at, which is we have this scandal and we are trying to get out of it and we are trying to resolve it. That's where we are at. You could go ahead.
Okay, I'll just summarize because, yeah, you're correct. It's a whole long conversation and it deals with a lot of policy. But I'll just summarize. The scandal we are in is because we have not planned our transport policy properly. And the victims are both the users of the transport and the operators of the transport. And the way to get out of this and to avoid other scandals is to plan it. So when I'm saying that we should organize boda boda riders and commuters and also matatu riders and commuters, that is the only way we can get out of this. But so long as we are looking at one scandal at a time, we will not get out. Bottom line, I've put there infographics that are showing exactly how this can be organized, how we can liberate both the operators of the matatus and boda bodas and the commuters that use them from the oppression that they undergo from private sector and from politicians. I've put those infographics there. Guys can read, guys can see the way forward. And unless we do that, we'll be discussing each scandal as it occurs. Thank you very much.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right in saying that we actually do not even have the time to be discussing one scandal. It's it's so many scandals. Oh my god, there's so many goddamn scandals in this country. You're right in saying we absolutely do not have the luxury of time to discuss each one at a time. But short of I'll say this, though I know I'm going to get crucified for it. Short of taking arms and literally shooting every goddamn politician on sight, this is the best shot that we have, is to discuss every scandal as it comes and to try and find a solution for it. Because the alternative is, you tell us diaspora people to come home and we all just arm ourselves and we decide, you know what, enough is enough. There's so many goddamn things that are wrong in Kenya. So many things, so many scandals, so many. There's too much. There's too much. I took a break because I was just like, I cannot deal. But you're right. Thank you so much, Maude. Let's have Nelson.
Jelani,
Did you have something to say? You can go ahead.
yeah, I just wanted to add that the cooking oil scandal that Moses Kuria was part of. It's so sad that these ministers, they are part of these deals, but if you see the people who are being prosecuted, they're just pawns in the game. They're like people who are chosen to be sacrificial lambs, and I'm just worried that if we continue to expose these deals and these corrupt cases, the right people are not being prosecuted. It's sad that looking at the oil scandal, I don't know who has been prosecuted, but the real perpetrators have not been prosecuted in the process. And then something else I wanted to raise is that these 200,000 bikes have not yet been imported into the country. And actually, Spiral cannot just import 200,000 bikes because there are too many, obviously, within a very short time. So, what they agreed with Moses Kuria is that they will import the 200,000 bikes slowly, but already they have signed the 2.6 billion taxpayer money to pay for the import tax. Can you imagine that? Moses Kuria, in his wisdom, gave an upfront waiver, not even a waiver. He paid for them upfront so that they can import their bikes tax free. it's illegal to do that. That's why they couldn't go to the EAC and go to Tanzania, and apply for SOFA so that they can get the tax exemption. Tax exemption only applies if it's industry wide. So if they wanted to do it, they would have done it on the EV industry, not on only one player like they did. So this is totally illegal process that they did. And some people were saying in KRA, they were seeing these documents and they were like, oh my God, what is this? And in Treasury, so everything that this government is doing, you just hear, oh, this one is from State House, oh, this one is from where, but the process that is outlined in the law is not being followed. What is happening is that people are just name dropping, oh, this is from State House, so let's just pass it. So people in this like KRA or Treasury, they're wondering, what the hell is this? This is against the law, but because they have no power, they just sign or they push it through. Like if you see the IDFs and all these documentations for tax and how they've been tax exempted, people were asking, this is not even legal to tax exempt like this. Another thing is, in Kenya, the law says that if you apply for tax exemption, you need to have at least 15 components of your bike sourced locally. But these bikes, they're all fully, they're finished products. They're coming in, it's a plug and play. You just put your fuel, you just come and, well, it's not ICE, so unaiwasha kama umeenda. There is no component that they are assembling locally, which is super illegal. It's not supposed to be like that. At least Spyro would have brought in the bikes and then tried to even buy some components from local manufacturers, but they didn't do that. They imported fully finished products. So meaning it's gonna be so cheap, because if it's coming from China, obviously it's cheap because economies of scale, and nobody can compete with this. So there is so many irregularities in this whole scandal, and rest assured we're gonna challenge it in court. We will assemble a team and try and challenge it in court because it's totally illegal. And the government, the only language they listen to is this, and this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna make noise and also challenge them in court.
Thank you so much, Nelson. So we proceed with the directed guidance from Jilani, where we are going to really stick to the topic. And so let's cue in Jose, Ingudi, KURIA, Saleh, then Hannah, 3 minutes each, and then Jelani and Nelson can chime in between there, should there be need. So guys, I see a lot of people requesting for the mic, so let's proceed in that order. And meanwhile, don't forget to build a network by following each other. Back to you.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Thank you. Allow me to talk about the same topic but in a wider breadth. And I'll start by saying that we are in a government and in a time where they are following, I don't know, that's a Murphy's law that says if anything can go wrong, it will go wrong. Everything and anything is just going wrong in this system. And I want to divert a little bit to asking myself, where are we as a country? We are the public raising these issues in a country where we have EACC, in a country where we have ODPP, in a country where we have parliament, all paid with taxpayers' money to prevent such kind of grafts from occurring. So my first question is, do we need these bodies in the first place? Do we need them if they cannot if they cannot unravel this kind of scams, which are so many that we don't even have?
I think we lost Jose, or can anybody else hear him?
Hello?
Nelson, can you hear him?
Hello?
No, but I think now who's that speaking?
Raymond is
We lost
speaking.
him. Yeah, we lost him.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. You have 2 minutes to go, Jose. Kindly continue. We can hear you. Raymond, please mute your mic.
Thank you. I was saying that there is only one statement I agreed with Duare on his interview, when he was asked that between Al-Shabaab and corruption, which is a bigger evil and what he can do with, he said he could choose Al-Shabaab over corruption. This is very much true because corruption can kill a whole generation. In fact, it has killed our elder generation since time of independence to date. The question is, what shall we do to prevent this kind of stories which have become so rampant every single day? What system changes do we need to do, either in law or in actions, to ensure that we put morality back to our leadership? Because that's what is totally lacking. I just learned yesterday from I think Nelson about that story of Nita, where a company is just procuring, not even procuring, but upgrading an ERP system with a cost of 1.6 billion. This kind of madness, which are corruptions that are now not in millions but billions every single day. You know, you have to be angry enough when you are reading this news. And the question I want to pose to you and to each one of us is, what do we need to do to bring this madness to an end? Because it's becoming too much.
Thank you so much. I'll cue in probably a 4-round.
One second, Maj. Let's have this guy. A manufacturing guru. He has experience in the EV space. So let's let him speak, and then we could have the other guys, because he just texted me, said he works in the motorbike industry as a parts manufacturer. So let's let him go, and then we can have other people. Manufacturing guru, go ahead. Your mic is yours. I am Eric Genius. Can you go ahead?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay, for introduction part of myself, I am Eric. I'm a mechanical engineer who started my career as a telecommunication engineer, but I saw that that is not my area of specialization. I went to Doshi, worked as an engineer in the steel industry. Then in the course of my career, I joined the motorbike industry with a company, which I will not disclose the name of the company, where I have been working as a production engineer in charge of motorbike parts. I will not go so much into what I do, but I'll go to how I gain interest in this space, which is to do with the company that yenye mumemulika kila mtu. That company, I did not know it is the company. Nimejua sahi after I saw from Nelson when they posted a flyer of the company, na nikaona that company, there are some parts that they requested that I can make them, I can make those parts for him or for that company. So to begin with, I would say that I would surprise you to tell you that Kenya is leap for making automotive vehicles. All those issues you are saying here about EV, motorbikes, we are leap for that. So I will first start with a breakdown of what is in that EV. That EV bike with that company, one thing that from my experience or from my duty that I know I can achieve is what I can term as the chassis. The chassis, ile inaitwa chassis by commonly known by everybody. And let me surprise you, we can make that motorbike here locally. Those guys, they just give us our design. They just give us the design. They give us the specification, and we'll make that motorbike. You'll be surprised where I work. the capital investment that I can work with is not comparable with whatever these guys avoided as the hiyo tax deduction waliambiwa wanafanya, because with, let me be specific, my capital investment penye nafanya kazi is around 5 million. So when you hear that 2.5 billion was used, let me tell you, with 2.5 billion, I have, with that money, we can manufacture everything in that motorcycle from scratch to the end. Dare me, not with 2.5 billion, but with 10 million, and I'm promising you, we can make that motorbike as it is. Because, can you hear everybody? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
we can hear you.
I have a question for you. What's your capacity?
My capacity. As for
Yes.
now, what I do is that I do what we call in engineering as reverse engineering. I look into parts that are fast moving, and I decide to produce them locally with a working capital of less than $1 million. And that is how I'm cutting down the cost of importing parts from China. I think I've answered you.
So,
But with this money,
how long would it take you to manufacture 2,000 bikes, e-bikes?
so let me break down for you. For that EV bike you're talking about, there are various components. In manufacturing, we say there are those parts that we invest a lot. For example, let me talk about the engine block. There is a lot of investment you have to put in, but there are some parts, there are minimal investment you have to put in there. So what I mean is this. If you look, for example, that your bike Spyro, it came to my workshop and I viewed it. Let me break it down in terms of what you are answering. You are asking. Your EV bike iko na plastics, iko na chassis, iko na wheels, iko na engine block, iko na hizo stori za battery and so forth. If I break down this thing, we have many companies that are in plastic industry. They already have invested in what we call the machinery or the capital investment in terms of machines. So when such a company approaches them, they come up with their product, and when your product is presented to them, they have maybe an investment of around 500K for molds to make the specific plastics they want. So in that EV, you break it down. What can we do it locally? What can we do locally here? What can we import? So you minimize a lot of money going to the foreign company. Because let me tell you one thing I've discovered with all these companies, these mega companies we see here in Kenya, they are importing everything, not taking into consideration that we have companies well established here locally that can do this and this and this and this. For example, your EV bike, why should you import any part of a plastic? Why should you import any plastic part? While you have companies here who have machineries that can make any plastic. Number one. Number two, why should you import a chassis when I can tell you, for example, where I work, give me the design, give me the specification, I'll give you the end product. That is what we are saying, a collaboration. As an engineer, let me tell you one thing. Toyota does not manufacture the entire vehicle. Ukisikia Toyota that they are making, let me give an example of kitu kama LC200. Kuna kampuni yenye it is ni ya stamping, inatengeneza parts fulani. There is another company that is making another part. There is another company that is making another part. And that is what happens as a collaboration between Toyota and maybe other companies. Unapata this company imemeja kutengeneza hii part. This company imemeja kutengeneza hii part. Why should we import such a whole unit when you can locally make? So, by the to be sincere, let's say that kitu kama hii let it be broken down. For example, kwenye nafanya kazi, I'm telling you I can make that chassis. They don't
Okay,
need
please
to
land. Please land.
pardon?
Land like Malaysia, because we have a few more speakers. We have a lot of speakers.
Okay, to finish up with that issue, I wanted to say that this company approached us in one way, the other, but I will say this. This is my first time to be in a space. I don't have the experience, so sijui watu wanarespond aje na nini. So I would say this. Number one is that this company did not engage with the local players the right way, because most of their bike parts we can make it here locally. I'm committing myself. I can make their chassis, I can make all their metal parts here locally, but they did not engage us. So we need to be alert. And I wish my last proposal would be here locally, if there's somebody you can engage, because this is a space you are talking, umepewa space kidogo uongee na mtu, uongee na space. If there is somebody here in Kenya who can engage me, inbox me, I'll give you a detailed information on how we can do these issues, because one thing is that the overseas companies are taking advantage of us because they are overproducing in manufacturing. Say when you have advanced technology, you overproduce because you have more than you need. So what is happening is that most of these companies are overproducing and dumping in Africa. So the good thing is, let us engage locally on how we can maximize this overproduction at ground level. We need to engage with the players. Na me
Yeah. So manufacturer, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Let's do this, because you're an expert on the ground. Just finalize there. We'll keep you on the mic, on the panel. Then we'll give you another chance to answer answer targeted questions when you're actually bringing it to the, the expertise that you have on the ground, or the your experience there. So your experience is very valuable to us, but let's give also other speakers a chance, and then we'll come back to you. Is that all right? Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So manufacturer, we're gonna do that. So let's take Hannah and Salah and Ingudi in that order, 3 minutes each, just for the order of the space. After 2 minutes, I'll raise my hand. Then if you see my hand up, you have 1 minute left. Then after that, Nelson and Jelani will chime in, but they can also chime in any other time. I just wanted to make sure we put people through so that more people can speak, because I see the requests coming in. Hannah, then Salah, and Ingudi in that order. Hannah, are you able to speak? Let's go to Salah.
Well, thank you. I can speak, and thank you, Marge. Thank you, the other host, and thank you for the rest of the people who are hearing. Good evening. And basically, I was hearing to the speakers here about the scandal of the way these companies are behaving, about the latest expertise which are given by the manufacturer. Now, personally, I have a civil engineering background, and I think many things in this country is so good, it's good, but the problem is the leadership, the political, the government which is there, which a government which is not out there to improve the lives of the people it's governing, a government which is there to enrich itself, to do business at itself at the expense of the Kenyans, a government that doesn't care the inputs of the experts of this country, a government that doesn't dwell on harnessing of the natural resources of this country. This is our biggest problem. This is the real problem. This is the issue. Everything about the government, this government, and probably for the last 10, 15 years, governments were scandals and scandals. And that's why we are at this level as a country. And that's why the living standard is down. That's why expenses are up. That's why we are facing these problems. And that's why probably these agencies have actually given us some energy to do things on what we can do in the government. What is the responsibility of the government to give the right person the right places? But that's not the way. You are CS here because you are needed for certain purposes, not the purpose of enriching Kenya, not the purpose of taking these people up or develop them, not the purpose of this, but a purpose of, for this. And that's why somebody was saying, was it Nelson, I think, that the oil scandal with Moses KURIA, who is being taken to court, not the real people. What happened to the fertilizer of that gentleman? Who is that? Was he Linturi? And his impeachment? Who interfered? What happened? I think in this country, without me taking a lot of time, we have only one option: get rid of this government. That's why most of us are supporting Gen Zs. We may not be Gen Zs, but we support them. And that's why expertise doesn't work. And that's why merit doesn't work. And that's why qualification doesn't work. And that's why honesty doesn't work, and integrity. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks so much, Salah. And Jelani and Nelson, should you also have questions for the speakers in between, just chime in. But let's cue Ingudi, KURIA, and Nevs, and then either of you will come in because you guys have lots of information that you still want to give. Nelson, I see your mic is on. Go on.
Yeah. So I wanted to add that Spyro is working with Mogo and Watu Credit, and Watu Credit has been having issues. They've been confiscating bikes because people are unable to pay, and these are the kind of people that Spyro is working with. And you can see, this big conspiracy to kill the other EV players in this industry because these guys came in with $20 million dollars as funding, and they're also receiving credit from Watu and Mogo. So Mogo gives the credit to the guys, the boda riders, and they take the bodas. They take the e-bikes, and also they exchange their ICE bikes. After exchanging their ICE bikes, the internal combustion engines, so petrol bikes, in West Africa, they actually burnt the bikes they banned all the ICE bikes and gave the riders the e-bikes. And these e-bikes, they haven't been done QA, quality assurance hasn't been done on them. No tests has been done on them. They're failing. You know, these e-bikes, they're using motherboards because it's electric. So they're failing on their way, on the way. They're not long lasting. Can you imagine giving out your ICE bike and then being given an e-bike that is not quality controlled? And after a few months it's broken down. After a few months you need to change the battery, and they sell the batteries. And so it's a not sustainable business that they're doing in Kenya. They're just putting the border riders into more trouble by introducing this quote unquote lucrative deal for them that they can exchange their bikes. And even the carbon credits that they're going to get from the avoidance credits are not going to the border riders. The carbon credits will only go to Spiro. So this is a con game that is about to happen in Kenya, and we need to stop it as soon as possible. Marge, you can go on.
Thank you so much, Nelson, for chiming in and adding the very important information to that. Ingudi and KURIA, 3 minutes each. Raymond, I see you. I've not forgotten you. Sorry, you'll come in. Yeah.
Hi, how are you doing? I am involved in the EV business in that I've just finished my prototype electric bike. I welded, together with my team, we welded the frame locally. We assembled the lithium battery. We were able to do what you call, we did two tests. You normally when you put something together in that manner, like you've welded your own frame and you've assembled your own battery, you do what you call a shakedown. Shakedown is what when you run the bike for the first time after assembly to see if everything is okay. Then we did a long run test to check about its power, carrying capacity, acceleration. What we are doing what you call uh, muscle memory management, because we didn't want a situation whereby initially front brake, you brake with the hand, rear brake, you also brake with the hand. So we changed it. We are putting the rear brake on the pedal, and the energy recovery is being fitted on the paddle so it doesn't become redundant. That's what we are doing. Uh, Part of due diligence is looking at potential competitors, and it was quite surprising. I came to realize that nearly all of them are importing. So, on terms of policy, there's no what we call what do we call it? Knowledge expansion, because from us we've learned a lot from actually putting this bike together. The rest of the things we imported, but the framed we made it ourselves. Then we imported the lithium cells, and assembled the battery. Then the rest we bought off shelf. So concerning what Nelson had said about the carbon credits, it has actually opened my eyes on this whole EV thing, because the approach is completely off spec. Because okay, taking EVs to border, it's not bad, but it should be taken to companies which have proper fleet management so that data can be collected. Because these units, whatever is coming in, they are based on on an R&D platform that is not Kenyan. We are just assimilating them and putting them into the market. And my take is that EVs should be limited to two-wheeler, three-wheelers, and what we call range tailored medium sized vehicles that will be serving our manufacturing sector to reduce the cost of production, to reduce the cost of the final product by reducing the transportation costs. So that's my take. It should be the limitation of EV, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, and range-tailored vehicles that are normally charged at the factory. If it's a bakery, they use that one, an electric vehicle, because a bakery, those vehicles don't go far. From there, it should be just series hybrid. So we are questioning how come the trajectory of the government is a bit different, and I really appreciate what Nelson has told me. It is simply a race for carbon credits. So it's completely, things are completely off spec. And also, apart from that, we are importing instead of manufacturing. On my part, I have a team of 4 people. We have the welder. We have another one who does the fiber casing. Then you have an electrician. Then I have what we call a product designer. 4 people. So imagine if we were able to get support to produce 400 bikes. Imagine 4 times 400. How many people would we be having? So if it takes 4 people to put together one full bike, imagine how many people would be employed. So my take is we just need to go back to the drawing board. We took off in a very wrong trajectory. If I compared what I did myself. So for my bike, what is left is casing. We want to put a very nice casing so that the bike has a very what is this called, aesthetics, because most of the e-bikes in Kenya look very basic. We want our unit to look very nice and presentable as we go for our further test runs to make it more stable. Thank you.
Good, thank you. I just interrupted you because Nelson had reminded me that we are finishing at the top of the hour. That means that we're going to reduce the speaking minutes from 3 to 2. So 2 minutes each so that we can have the rest of the speakers speak. And then 10 minutes too, we're going to have the Nelson and Jelani closing. Nevs, KURIA and then Nevs, 2 minutes each. So after 1 minute, I'll raise my hand up. And then that means you have a minute left. Sorry, KURIA, for that, but we are closing in at the top of the hour and not so many people have spoken. Over to you, KURIA, the Nevs.
Hey, watumaliza baba maturina pio beakizela ibo. I'm gonna do it under 1 minute.
Tutafanya nini? Tutafanya space ingine because what I hear you and I hear the need. We'll speak with the Nelson and Jelani that I need a space that's only focusing on the needs of the people on the ground on this business. So then the focus is different because today the focus was on the scandal. And that I think Jelani and Nelson will agree with me. It's going to give you people more time than, because now I also have a feeling you guys are not finishing to say what you want to say. But nevertheless, we have to make some compromises here. KURIA?
Okay, sure. Thanks almost everybody for having me. I'm actually going to do it under 30 seconds. So there's something that I want as we're having this fight. I want to have this fight like from an informed position. I'm an engineer. So there's one comment someone said that we don't have enough power production. Actually, we do have enough power production. The only problem that we don't have it is the power is quite expensive. The peak power, that's the only problem that we have. In terms of the lines and all that, then we don't need to change that into a 3-phase. So we do have the other except thing that I've had a comment is someone said about transformers and all that. Actually, we can quickly change that and that will be fine. Anyway, but Nelson, the day that you want to have a conversation in terms of BRT, I'm a civil engineer. I'm actually more than happy to give you that. Thanks.
Thanks, KURIA, for being very brief. Next.
Hi, guys. I'm glad for this space. What I would like to suggest in terms of what is happening, I think my observation is that Nelson came up. Sorry, I'm diverting. Just one moment, I'm diverting from the main course for today. But Nelson came up with the Andani saga. Today we have Jerani coming up with e-mobility scandal expose, and tomorrow we will have another person, Marge, coming up with another one, and I'll come with another one. I think we need to have a platform like somewhere that is centralized, whereby all this information is put such that we can address them even before they happen. Because if we keep on waiting for Nelson to have the information, Jerani to have the information, Mad to have the information, this information is not going around the country. Like not everybody knows what is happening. That is one. Another thing, and I think that one Kenya Daima can assist because he's a programmer. He can make that for us. The other point I would like to say is on making those guys who are saying that we are importing plastics. I don't know why you see it being a big deal importing plastics, whereas we are importing toothpicks, which has been made from bamboo from China, and thus suppressing our dollar. All I think all our priorities are upside down. Thirdly, the for us to come to I mean for us to be able to tackle this issue of corruption, I think we need to push for corruption to be uh, like if someone is convicted of corruption, they should receive capital punishment. That's what I have to say. Thank you, guys.
Thanks. So now, Gitara and Chariot, then Mbuzi and Pau in that order. And I'm sorry we're not going to be able to add further speakers because we only have 13 minutes to go. Gitara?
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Okay, whatever I wanted to comment about, I think it has already been handled by somebody. It was about the current, like the grid being able to support immobility. But I would like to add something. The problem that we have as Kenya is about the storage. When you check the energy mix in Kenya, it's 80% plus renewable energy, and as you all know that renewable energy is characterized by an intermittent nature, so that and thus we need an energy storage system that can be able to store the excess energy so that the grid can be stable and it can also support mobility. Otherwise, we have excess energy in Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gitara, for keeping the time. Chariot?
Good evening. My name is Alfred, and I'm a mechanical engineer by profession. And this discussion today is quite one that I would like to engage in. And first things first, the business of EV in Kenya. We should really do away with importation. Rather, we should try and equip our Kenyan people, because in Kenya we have the capacity. I'll take an example of, because time is short now, an example of where I used to work before, that is a numerical machining complex, which the government has been funding a lot, and it has a large capacity to do produce in terms of gears, in terms of engine blocks, where you can do casting, and because most or some of the military equipment that are used by the government are being serviced at NMC, which I can for sure say that it has a capacity to produce whatever is needed to put together an EV bike. EV bikes, well, I've seen your hand, Marge, so I don't think I'm going to say a lot. Yeah, I think we should, I wouldn't encourage EV alone in terms of business, doing away with the ICE, because EV bikes are known for short range. And for our people who do business with their bikes, I think it is better to have an ICE in place as well. Because even in Europe, it's still a challenge in terms of the range. People who are using EVs for business, they still do have to use ICE at some point to boost their productivity or their use for EVs. I'm not going to delve much because I've seen time's up and Marge has already put up her hand. So yeah, I think we can have this discussion sometime later then. Thank you.
Thanks, Chariot. Yes, that's really, this space calls for another space. Pau and Buzi, Nelson, over.
Yeah, I want to play. There is a video clip that I have seen in the comments from Citizen TV Kenya from last year, 20th November 2023. Let me play it.
Border riders in Mombasa have threatened to return the motorbikes to the manufacturer, citing poor after-sale services and arbitrary increase of the monthly deductions. The riders who held protests in Mombasa town on Monday also complained that the electric border borders are weak compared to the petrol-powered ones. This coming barely 3 months after President William Ruto officially launched the electric motorcycles in Mombasa in an attempt to accelerate e-mobility adoption and lower the operational cost in the border industry.
Okay, go ahead, Marge.
Thanks. Do you want somebody to chime in on that, or is that just for info?
Yeah, I had said this info before, so I just wanted
Okay,
to,
okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Pau and then Mbuzi. Pau, can you hear me? Pau, okay. Mbuzi.
Hey, I'll go. Buzimilia, that's my pseudonym. Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you, Nelson. Thank you, Jelani. Thank you, Maj. Thank you, everyone, for spotlighting hizi scandals zenye zinaendelea. To answer, I think there was an open question about what can be done, and honestly, I don't think there's like a prescribed solution to the problem. I don't know that it's a unique problem. Maybe it's happened somewhere else, and maybe we just haven't searched hard enough for like how those people responded to this type of problem in their country. In any case, ule alikuwa anasema story ya Murphy's Law, in that, you know, like everything that can be stolen is getting stolen, you know, like whether it's diapers, whether it's ethanol, whether it's medicines. My friend almost died in Kisumu. Alikuwa anafanya, he was like a student au attached doctors. He almost died because madawa zilikuwa zimeibwa, zilikuwa zimekuwa diluted, so that the malaria dawa zilikuwa placebos. So alikuwa na prescribe watoto na hiyo dawa wana dedi. Anashindwa, is this a new strain of malaria? Anyway, that's like a, you know, like tangentially on a tangent. But back to history, EVs, and you know, like these guys, they see an opportunity to steal, they will steal. So that's what they're doing. And I think this stuff that us guys, you guys are doing, especially you guys, Kina Nelson, Kina Jelani, everyone out there. I've seen even Americ's, Ulemse, Metro Boomin. I think what we're doing is the right thing, and then Pole Pole too. We need to disseminate this message to like more Kenyans, so that we like make more Kenyans aware. And unfortunately, I wrote a thesis on lexic and hybrid systems, so I get severely infuriated nikiona vitu nonsense zenye hawa wase wanaongelea ama wanafanya. In any case, yeah. So that's my part of my career line, but inatumiwa kuiba, and you know, like let's just keep pushing the message, and one day to stop this theft over a whole country.
Thank you so much, Mbuzi. Manufacturer, I'll give you 1 minute because you'd already spoken. Then we go to the closing session. Manufacturer, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah.
So, as a closing remark, I would say this: there is an awakening. But I did not have the courage to talk, and as I know, I came to know that I'm a Gen Z, though I'm a millennium. I need to speak out. So my closing remark is: if you are locally in engineering, you are in any other field, follow me. Let's talk in the inbox. Let's unlock this thing. We'll talk because at my capability, I know what we can do. That is one thing. And we are transforming our country. So I would encourage anybody in that space who we can talk and share. We can share the ideas. Let's talk. Let's see how we can transform our country. And I'm very open. My profession is mechanical engineering. I've worked for several years, and what I know is this: we can sit down. We don't have to rely on these people from foreign countries to make our decisions. We'll make our decisions. We'll make those parts here. We'll make those motorbikes here. So anybody who is in this space and is interested in engineering, follow us. Let us follow each other.
Yes.
We can make a decision on how we can transform our country.
Yes, a very good point on networking. So those on the space do follow each other, follow the host, the co-hosts,
Yeah,
speakers,
yeah,
look left and right and follow each other. And like
yes.
said before, we're going to have a follow-up space. As I close, because we have to close in 4 minutes. I just want to say that interestingly, the comment that I read is from an engineer, a Kenyan engineer, and also IT person based in Denmark, and he said this system is not viable, but we had a lot of engineers in Kenya saying it is viable. So after we're done, and Nelson and Jelani have done a second space, probably later when things have settled, we're going to do a space whereby we're going to have an interchange between diaspora experts and experts on the ground, because that's what we do, the diaspora opportunities we share that. But that was quite interesting to see different options. So we're looking forward to hearing more. That having been said, I give the
Jelani,
mic to Jelani.
before you before
Uh,
you before you
no,
terminate.
manufacturer. No.
Okay, okay, okay.
We have to keep tight. There's going to be a next time. Jelani, over to you.
Thank you so much, everybody, for showing up to this space. The purpose of this spaces is so that we could shed light on stuff that's happening, but also, most importantly, find a solution and, be able to speak as Gen Zs and millennials and figure out what is the best way forward. I think that, like I said in many other spaces before, that nobody has 2020 future vision. Nobody knows everything. Nobody knows 100% of everything. But when we come together and we talk about stuff, we are able to forge a way forward. We are able to figure something out. Mudge is right in saying that we shall have a second space. I think on that second space is where we could, spend some time just seeing what could we do professionally with people that are in this space to change the prospects of this. Yeah, I see the mic. I appreciate all of you and see you next time on the next space. Asante ni sana.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice one. And we're going to have more spaces. And what we've decided as the diaspora, Gen Zs and millennials, is we will be exposing these deals because it's becoming more and more risky for people in Kenya to do it. So if you have anything that you would like exposed, you can send it to us and we will do it on your behalf as we have more. They cannot easily reach us. It's not that they cannot reach us, but they cannot easily reach us. So we are happy to help our country move forward in this moment of revolution. So thank you and have a good one. Bye.